Alright, so 0.2 Dawn of the Hunt comes out tomorrow. Now we have patch notes. Granted, we're still missing a lot of information, but I'll just give you my kind of overview of how I'm feeling about it. It's a little bit worrying, but on one hand, we don't really have all the information, so it could be like completely fine, but we'll find out, I guess, tomorrow and in the coming like week or so as people figure out new stuff. So the best part of the patch, for sure, at least for me, is the seemingly across the board damage nerfs. The game's power level was just way too high right off the start. There's so many builds that just deleted bosses on not super good gear, and you get to the boss fights and you just melt them for the first time, and you like I have not experienced a real arbiter fight in PoE 2 because every build I got to him with, I just deleted him in some cases literally one spell cast. But yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous, and I never played any like super expensive builds either. But so in the patch notes, they didn't include like base damage changes and some other stuff like that, so it's hard to tell what the actual power level will be specifically and like accurately, but you can kind of get a general vibe here. Everything was just blasted across the board. I don't think it'll be as bad as it looks with like new support gems and stuff and when they release the base damage changes, but definitely they want to turn the power down, and I think rightfully so. It was just ridiculous. So I don't know. I think I'm not sure where they want to put it. It's kind of hard to tell what they want to do. I feel like GGG has always kind of had employees that are at war with each other, where they have different ideas of how the game should be, and they end up like kind of clashing. But I think like a couple 100,000 DPS on an average build or something with pretty decent gear would be an acceptable state for my taste. I don't think the game really needs to be doing millions of DPS right away on launch. Gotta leave some room for the power creep and stuff. I prefer games to have like kind of lower numbers too, because once you get into super high numbers, it's like, what's an extra digit? I don't know. It feels less impactful. Something that does look like a problem without knowing the new support gems or base damage changes is that a lot of skills just seem to be like completely obliterated. Not just like a nerf, but like obliterated, completely unusable. Like concoctions requiring an armed weapon, losing a ton of flash charge generation for it, grenades getting double or longer cooldown times, flame blast getting a 15-second cooldown. Now, I can see the intention here. Maybe they want these things to be weaved in between skills. I know they want the game to not be just a one-button build for everything, and hopefully there will be like appropriate buffs to the new support gems and base damage changes that'll make it make sense. But thinking of how the game was in its first, I don't want to say season, but patch, I guess, it's hard to imagine these being used in that way. It just kind of clashes, so I'm hoping it works out. But if there's not a lot of compensation for that, these are just skills that are never going to be used now. And something weird that on the other hand that didn't get nerfed is Eye of Winter's critical weakness buff, where if you just cast like one Eye of Weakness, it's basically critical weakness buff capped on the enemy. They did like a minor change where each tick of the buff is like has its own duration. So if you have like 5 stacks and you hit it once, it won't like update all 5 stacks. It will just give the one new stack its own duration, right? And then they'll fall off as in line to when you applied them. So yeah, I don't know. Seems kind of weird. Hopefully it all works out with all the changes with support gems and whatnot. On the other hand of power, the biggest issue I'm seeing for this patch is that defense is looking completely and absolutely abysmal. Similar to last patch, every build is just going to go energy shield, other than probably like Blacksmith of Katava, since that will be able to reach a couple thousand life and also getting fizz reduction from its ascendancy nodes. But I don't know, maybe most of the new support gems will maybe have some defense towards it. We've seen some support gems that had some defense on it, but I don't know how many really there will be. So I'm guessing energy shield is still going to be king, even with the absolute pure removal of Grim Feast doesn't exist anymore. Literally doesn't exist. Not just nerfed, it doesn't exist. Pretty much every build, even without Grim Feast, can get a couple thousand energy shield, and it's just a no-brainer to get it right. There's no great way to scale life, so you're gonna get energy shield instead. Especially this patch, even more life scaling options were removed, like on the Arbiter chest, the Warrior Invictus or whatever it's called, and some other things. And armor wasn't buffed enough to get in the place it needs to be. There was an armor buff, technically this patch, where bosses would have armor penetration, which I think is kind of hilarious that they have that, or had it, I guess. But they removed the armor penetration. But what they also did is made the weapons or attack scaling of the monsters be converted less into elemental damage, which means they're going to be doing more fizz damage, which means your armor is less effective because the bigger hit you get, the less effective your armor is. So it might end up being like a slight buff, but I doubt it'll be anything huge. And then what else? There's they changed ailment thresholds, so now it's only half of what it used to be, because originally it was, you know, like based on your entire HP bar, and now it's only half of your HP bar. And I think that might be pretty terrible with like getting frozen and shocked and whatever, especially with the limited number of options for cleansing ailments in this game. There's really not a whole lot you can do except for like charms. Might be pretty rough. Nobody likes getting frozen, and you don't really have any ways to deal with it except for charms, which charms don't really feel that great. So yeah. And then every build is just going to be energy shield and evasion. It's, I don't know, the defense seems kind of doomed. I guess we'll see what happens. They mentioned like an evasion rework or something in an interview, but I didn't see anything about that in the patch notes, so I don't know what's going on with that. Now Huntress, I'm pretty excited for Huntress, but honestly it's gonna be hard to justify going Huntress with the low defense when they add a class like Lich, which will get 25% damage reduction from its ascendancy nodes and the at-series disdain helmet, which is pretty common. And then, well, it was common, it might be nerf drop right now, I don't know. But, and along with that, 25% damage reduction is like just a straight up damage reduction on everything. And along with that, it's still going to be able to get close to 20,000 energy shield, even without Grim Feast. I think realistically, you'll be able to get 10k pretty easily. And then 20k is going to be like really, 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 really good gear. Or around that number, maybe a little less. But overall, I don't really know what's going on with their defense philosophy here. Now, outside of like overall builds and stuff, there's officially no zones in the campaign, I think, that feel great to farm for me. Especially after they, in this patch, are nerfing the Dreadnought checkpoint reset nerf, which is a reset point. It was where you reset at a certain checkpoint in the Dreadnought, and then there's a big magic pack you kill every time. I mean, I guess like full clearing Dreadnought and other zones is fine, but I'm not really looking forward to them, right? I think it's a pretty big problem in the game with like honestly, it's like a huge campaign focus, right? They really put a lot of work in the campaign. None of the zones actually feel great to farm. Speaking of the music, D2, I don't know how like D2 did this so good, and other games just can't copy it. I feel like most RPGs, like, I'm not excited for farming anything in the campaign. Some are better than others. It's definitely a sliding scale with, I think at D2 is like at the top, and nobody's been able to replicate it. And especially with how much GGG like looks to D2 and stuff, you think they would have some pretty good farming zones that are good to look forward to. But no, it just doesn't really exist in PoE2, at least not for me. There's not a single zone in the game, now that Dreadnought is nerfed, where I'm like, yes, I get to farm this zone now. Then, back to endgame, more focused. Crafting, I think is going to feel significantly better this patch with recombinators and fracturing orbs. They said the fracturing orb drop rate was going to be pretty high. Actually, they said like once, you get like 1 fracturing orb on average per every like corruption/cleanse zone, which is a new, I guess, influence on the atlas that you'll see. And you'll go and clear it, and apparently it drops a fracturing orb once on average there. If you don't know what a fracturing orb, it's really, 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 really good. It locks a certain affix onto the item and it can't be changed at all. Makes it way easier to get other good mods. And then recombinators will be like you smash 2 items together and you get like a item sandwich, and it's like mixture of both. So those will, I think, will alleviate a lot of the pain with that. Probably should need a little bit more, but then that, and then some runes being a little bit better. I think crafting will be in a pretty decent spot. And the little bit of extra content in game hopefully makes it feel more complete, but I'm not sure if it'll be enough just yet. It's definitely getting there. I feel like 1 or 2 more content updates of stuff in the end game, it'll be at a pretty good spot. So overall, I mean, I don't know. Overall, it looks like semi in the right direction. Like on one end, it's in the right direction. On the other end, it looks like a really wrong direction with like defense. I really don't know what they want to do with defense in this game, but I'd say it looks like a 60-40 in terms of bad to good. So I'd say it's like slight like move in the right direction here. I mean, this is just my guess. It could end up being more or less when it actually comes out and I played it for a bit, but I don't know. Just the defensive options in this game are awful.